Hey guys, my name's Orthodox. Welcome back to the channel. We're doing part 2 of the Flame tier list. If you haven't seen part 1, go ahead and click the link in the description below. You guys can go ahead and catch up watching part 1 here. I know this is kind of a spoiler because you're seeing where we've ranked the characters, but if you'd like to see our thoughts, mine and Lerart's, you'll be able to see that. And of course, joining myself today is Lerart as well.
Hey, what's up? I'm Lerart.
And, oh, sorry, Lerart.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just excited. We also have a returning guest as well, which is Straitlace.
Hello, everyone.
So very excited to have both of you guys. Thank you for coming back again, actually. As well, if you guys want to see the full tier list that is completed, it'll be in the Discord. Again, link in the description below if you'd like to take a look. And of course, if you guys have any questions or thoughts or concerns, definitely join the Discord and you'll be able to talk to us directly and have a discussion beyond. That being said, I think I would like to start with kind of going back over and just saying that this tier list is for the public rooms for Volk and specifically Master Volk. And then I also wanted to look at any kind of changes for the characters. So I know we talked a little bit off camera when we were getting together, saying that Elaine should be changed. And I think that's fair enough to say that it's not worth building him at this current time. Definitely due to the fact that his backline is similar to Emma's. And yeah, I mean, last defense itself is also not the greatest ability there. So yeah, you guys, Lace, what do you think so far? Joining us for the first time on this Flame tier list, what are your thoughts about the placements for the characters?
I definitely agree with the placement of pretty much all the characters. Elaine definitely caught me off guard because he has a standard Koei ability. His chain Koei ability is not very applicable to most characters, and then his only 3-star ability that isn't resistance is Last Defense, which is not very useful, especially in Volk. The other one that caught me off guard was Valentine's Ezolith, but her usefulness was more so in the past with Mercurial Gauntlet before we had wider access to Burn. And the other thing she has is Defense down on her skill 2, which is less useful in the grand scheme of her wider kit. So as far as the placement of the rest of the units, I pretty much agree with all of them.
Nice. And then Lerart, any second thoughts, any second guessing on placement for our units that might have changed overnight?
No, I think it's around there. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything.
All right, cool. Then yeah, let's get started. Let's start digging into the 5 stars then. I have the first character on the list is Rena that I wanted to look at. So I personally actually stuck Rena on bottom of A is where I had her initially. Maybe not necessarily bottom, but I was looking into considering placing her somewhere around A here. Pretty much due to the fact that she has the sleep res, right? She is a blade unit. She is competing with Nobu as well. So before I get too deep into it as well, Lerart, what are your thoughts on Rena as a character in Master Volk?
Yeah. Rena, she got a lot worse with time. She's not bad. Like, I remember when the burn meta was starting. Rena got so much better, and she was pretty much one of the best units. But nowadays, everyone has burn. Her damage is still okay, so there's that. But just like Azalith, I feel like one of the biggest things about her at the time she was one of the best characters was that she was one of the only burn enablers. But nowadays we have so many burn enablers that it doesn't really matter, and like she loses the burning puncture due to how quickly you get the overburn on Volk. So she's still decent because her mods are not terrible, but definitely lacking damage, I think, nowadays.
Yeah, I definitely was taking a look into her kit, right, and she does have, when initially this ability was kind of premiered with the Smithing Sisters, and I'm talking about the primed abilities. And she ended up getting primed defense, which I found pretty interesting to work alongside the double buff abilities. So she has additionally the healing double buff, kind of for some self-sustain, right? And then additionally being able to work with Valiant Crown, since blades actually don't have their own unique worm print. Valiant Crown then becomes her best print. She has pretty good synergy actually with Halloween Lowen in the fact that his healing skill will give her additional double buffs, so a little more healing, a little more strength on that end. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting kit, but definitely with Burn not being as valuable since it's oversaturated, I do think that definitely does hurt her a little bit. Lace, what are your thoughts then on Rena and her playability in Volk?
Rena was one of the first units I used when clearing Volk when it first came out, because I myself am a Blade main. So a couple things with her. She is a defense unit, and while I usually don't take unit tags like that on face value, her kit does reflect this in her abilities. She has prime defense and healing double buff, so she has better survivability than a lot of units. But yeah, her time was a long time ago when burn was not, we didn't have as much burn, so the mana spirals in Flame really added a lot of burn into the different units. So because we now have so much burn, it's very easy to cap burn, and then she doesn't get the Punisher in her first ability. The other thing I found when playing Rena is that her first skill, Roaring Furnace, has 4 small hits and then 1 large hit. But that large hit is delayed a little bit, so if the target moves, it can be hard to land because she doesn't readjust her aim after you've activated the skill. So even though it has a lot of range, if Volk dashes or walks to the center of the map, it's very easy to miss with the big hit of the skill. The other thing is she just has an average chain co, just wind res. But aside from that, she's still solid. She's not terrible. She's not outstanding, but she's doable.
Yeah. I was definitely taking a look. So it is the burn equals user win res, which is probably one of the more difficult ones to work with in Master Volk. Considering the burn saturation, right? At some point in time, that chain co ability is just going to completely turn off, and then you won't have access to it for the rest of the match, which is typically, I want to say, more or less 40% to 50% of the way through Volk's HP, which is pretty fast, actually. I think it's like less than half the fight. I want to say that burn is live, depending on your team composition. Her shared skill is her skill 1, which is Roaring Furnace. It's an SP cost of like 9.3k, I want to say, which is pretty high. It does burn, but again, not exactly what you would want, as you're going to be overcapping burn with that. It does have a skill shift as well, which seemingly could be useful, but I just don't know. I think with the skill shared skill cost so high, I don't know if it merits the value. In her case, right, its phase 2 is 10% crit, I believe, for like 15 seconds, and then the last one is bonus damage.
Yeah.
I think it's
On
only
burning
when
enemies.
on burning enemies, right?
Yeah.
So that then would be lost after. I don't know if outside of Mars, right, as a dragon, and Marth last boosting, it may have some more value to use Rena's skill. But I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
especially because her skill 2 charges her S1.
Right.
So with Marth's less boost, she can just spam her S1.
That's true. You're right. So I guess the one thing that she has going for her is being sleep res, where she can be compatible and playing with Marth, right? To at least have that 1 stun, 1 sleep. Yeah, go ahead, Lace.
The problem with that is that her competition is Nobunaga, who also has sleep res.
That is true. That is a good point. And Nobu does, of course, bring a lot more utility. We can talk about her in a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely a situation, right, where Rena is burn, punish, and survivability, and then you have a character like Nobu, who is not reliant on burn. She has her own dispel and mechanics that we can mention. So yeah, I think Rena still would get the job done. I've definitely cleared with Rena in Master Volk. I just think that her overzealousness, if you will, to burn the boss at this point is a hindrance. Since skill 2 readies skill 1, right? You might as well just say both skills are essentially burning skills. You know. So, yeah. Any closing thoughts then you guys have on Reina's playability, her backline potential, anything of that nature?
No, not personally.
Okay, let's get into Chelsea then, right? I know we were talking about her more off camera, as she's definitely a very interesting and a very unique kit. I'm definitely just gonna say where we kind of placed her, which was off meta. I think that's fair, right? You know, like the deal with her is she's one of, if not the only, low HP units in Flame.
Yeah.
I don't know. Lace, what are your thoughts on Chelsea? You think the placement is fair for off meta? What are you thinking about her playability?
Chelsea is a difficult unit to play correctly, and I think I'd personally rank her a little bit lower specifically for public rooms, because Chelsea's kit not only relies on Chelsea alone, but it relies on the healer knowing what to do with Chelsea, because a lot of her DPS does come when she's at low HP. Her first ability is HP below 30% equals strength and attack rate, which is very nice, and it's where she wants to be. However, Volk has a lot of undodgeable attacks, and that's really not good for Chelsea. If she's at low HP, anything could kill her. So the healer has to leave her at low HP and heal her up right before those big hits. Although in a public room, a healer might just worry about her dying period and just heal her up, keeping her from her full potential.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I know earlier I had mentioned, right, the ability to run with Veronica's shared skill, as Chelsea would be one of the few characters who could consistently and reliably use Veronica's shared skill at 1 HP. Laura, we had looked at this in the DPS sim. What did you say the benefit was to using Veronica's skill consistently at 1 HP?
Yeah, so if you at 1 HP and using Veronica's skill instead of Renzo's, the DPS increases by 3k.
Okay. And
so it's a noticeable increase, but not huge.
What was her initial DPS that was shown on the sim as well?
At 1 HP it was 25k.
It was 25?
Yeah.
Okay, so then it bumps her up to 28, which... Where does that sit her around for the rest of the units? Does that move her significantly amongst a few different placements, or is that still in the middle of the pack?
It's just still in the middle of the pack. It's still below student Maribelle, still below Naveed, so yeah. It's still below like Xania even. So I wouldn't put her below off meta, because even at full HP she's still better than everyone below.
Right.
Because but yeah, she's not really good.
Another thing to consider is her third ability, Obsessive Love. It increases her strength by 30% when she uses her skill 2 and gets the buff from that, but it also decreases her defense by 20%. So survivability is, or not just with being low HP, but even at full HP, you're going to have some issues with taking lots of damage if you're using your skill 2, which she needs to for maximum damage.
Right. And then, of course, that obsession buff is a full minute. It's 60 seconds. So I think it's tough with Volk, right? You're definitely going to experience, by the time Chelsea has used her skill 2 once, you will definitely still have obsession active during the overwhelming hunger into steel vitality cycle. And that's probably where most Chelseas are going to meet the end. I mean, in a public room, if they're not at full HP. I know a lot of ranged units, like for example Mega Man, actually dies during that rotation at full HP if he does not have a defensive coab or print available to him. So it's just kind of the bane of being a ranged unit, right? Already having lower resistances to start. I guess that kind of bleeds into our thought about the co-abilities for her. Now, skill haste, right, as a bow is great, and I also was looking at her HP below 40 providing a shield, and this is a unique, right, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only unit, Chelsea is the only unit to have this Chainco ability, right, for HP below 40 equals shield, for flame.
Yeah, according to the wiki, she's the only one.
Okay, because I know Grace has it for shadow, right, so Chelsea now has it for flame.
As a collab?
Yeah, as a chain coab.
Yeah.
Because Grace is 4 strike and HP below 40 equals shield for shadow, I believe. And then Chelsea is for flame. Now it's 50%. But we were kind of talking about the limitations, right, of the shield. I actually, as a side note to this, and this actually makes this co-ability even worse. I don't know if you guys knew this, but when you shift into dragon form, or when you shift out of dragon form, it actually pops your shield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not exactly sure why that needs to happen from a mechanics perspective, but if you look at the shield, it's like a little icon around the player, so I think there's like supposed to be some sort of visual symbolism where your like physical body becomes too large for the shield to protect you anymore.
Right.
But isn't that the case with like all shields?
Yeah.
I would have to think so. I think the only one that I would think otherwise, right, would be the Divergent shield from, and I know this is off topic and this is kind of more like on shield discussion, but we have the AC 130 Garland, right? And he has the Divergent shield that is applied, but unfortunately that suffers the same mechanical effect, which is inherently a DPS loss when you shift into dragon, beyond just being a dragon normally. So I don't know. I feel if they were to rework this Chainco ability, right, it could be more beneficial to Chelsea in the long run. Or maybe some kind of worm print that adjusted shields in some fashion. But I don't necessarily feel that with the defense loss that Chelsea is giving herself, right, I don't feel that 50% HP is enough of a threshold to help her, right? All of the important mechanics that she would get hit by that are unavoidable, like the Steel Vitality, is going to deal more than that 50%, which makes the shield useless. So, and just to bring another point into light, if the damage exceeds the shield pops and the full damage is taken.
Yeah.
So that's a good thought to consider too. Is most likely Chelsea will trigger the shield, right? She'll have the shield. She might get healed back up to full, but that shield will do nothing when Steel Vitality comes into play, and she's still going to take the damage calculated with her defense drop.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm not sure. The only other thing is her shared skill, right, to talk about. Chelsea's is interesting, right? So it personally it heals her, but that healing mechanic is actually not shared, since you have to have the obsession buff on your character. So for her, I think it ends up being a little under 700% as a shared skill, and it's a cost of like 5,800 for a 4-cost skill. So I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of shared skills that just do damage. I'd like the shared skill to have some additional utility to help cover, or to help widen the range of my units. Unless it's insanely good damage, right? Insanely good damage. But I don't know. I don't think I can justify, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, Love's Liberation is a single targeted It's 7 hits, right? But it's single targeted. It does follow the target. So at least it has the homing capability. It can't miss. But it's not like an AoE splash like Lace, right? You were using Ancient Ray. You know, and that has it is a damage skill, but it has the utility to cover the wolves, right? And that definitely seems more worthwhile than to run Love's Liberation. I'm not sure. I think there could be something for Chelsea in the future, but maybe it just needs to come with the right either worm print if they decide to do low HP worm prints, something beyond the last strength style worm prints, right, or dragons. Either that or another skill, another shared skill, maybe to help her.
Well, with units like Chelsea, she would shine much more in content like High Mercury. Not that one specifically, but High Mercury is a fight where you take damage once and you don't need to take damage for the rest of the fight.
Right.
That's the kind of content that she's designed for, and we don't really have that in Wind right now. So for Volk in particular, especially public rooms, I don't see her being very useful, because I think she has a really high chance of dying earlier in the fight.
Yeah. I think that pretty much covers her for now. I think my final closing thoughts would be looking forward to seeing more equipment for her, either worm prints, dragons, passives, or even possibly a spiral.
Yeah, I feel like low HP characters suffer from worm prints. There aren't a lot of worm prints for them.
Right. Yeah, there seems to be more worm prints that reward high HP, but that's counterintuitive to a kit that's designed to lower your HP.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, well, any other thoughts you guys have, or would you like to move on?
No.
All right, yeah, let's move to Valentine's Hildegarde then. Now, Hildegarde, I don't know where to even begin. I mean, this is an energy-based healer, right? If I had to place her, I awkwardly would probably initially place her in options above options not available. I really don't think I'd place her any higher. And you guys maybe could argue with me to see if there is a placement for her that goes higher. I don't know. Her kit as a whole is just so much more underwhelming than Halloween Lowen's, and even possibly Verica's nowadays. I don't know. I mean, she has the 4-strike debilitator, right? Which is an interesting mechanic and could help other units survive the Steel Vitality Overwhelming Hunger cycle, but she is still competing with, Halloween Lowen, for example, where he has a defense buff. He has the ability to raise the max HP of the allied units, right? Earlier on. I mean, granted, the one thing that Valentine's Hildegarde has going for her, is skill prep, right? Which actually Verica does not have. I don't know. I guess before I go too much farther in there for placement, where are you thinking that you had placed Valentine's Hildegarde on the list?
Around there, yeah. She's definitely she's not a bad healer. It's just that the other healers are better.
Right.
Because I feel like that's the case for basically any healer almost. Like all of the healers can do the job. It's just that for healers, the being worse than some characters I feel like it's affects more. Because the healer always does the same thing, right? So for example, if I say, oh, Uden is better than Serena, right? Yeah, but I don't know even how to explain. It's just that I feel like healers are already not that important. It is for Volk, but in general. But when a healer is just worse than the other healers, I feel like there's no redeeming qualities, even if the healer itself is not bad. Especially when a 4-star is better than a limited 5-star. Not
Right,
it's
right.
she's not limited anymore. Never mind.
Well, she was, yeah, she was.
Yeah,
And it's not technically just one 4-star, but you could argue
two four
two.
stars. Yeah,
I mean, there's I won't say it's a guarantee that both the 4-stars are better, but there definitely is room to argue
yeah,
that, I mean, Halloween Lowen is definitively better than either,
yeah.
right? But at least for Verica, I mean, Verica does have stun cleanse. Verica does also have 2 different healing skills. The one thing that's unfortunate with Hildegarde is she suffers from the shield as her skill 2. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it gives team energy. It gives 2 stacks of team energy, right?
Yeah.
To everyone, but I don't know. We don't really have enough units that take advantage of energy. I think the only unit that I can think of off the top of my head that would truly appreciate the energy gained from Hildegarde would be Nadine.
Nadine and Crom.
I could see that, yeah. I could see Crom
Yeah.
as well. I think those 2 units, right, would truly shine with Hildegarde on their team and could possibly be a better composition, right, than having Halloween Lowen.
Even then, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, Hildegarde has skill prep, but Worm Prints for healer are not as important. I feel like for DPS units, so you can just run Choco on Verica no problem, with no problem at all. Especially because she already has like really strong healings. Because 2 of her abilities are like make her healings more potent.
Right.
There's the
right.
collab. The mods for the healing is already great. She has 2 healing skills. So there's just no reason to run Hildegarde. Yeah.
Yeah. Lace, what are you thinking about Valentine's Hildegarde as a unit? Do you have her? Have you built her? What are your thoughts on her?
I have tried and missed for Valentine's Hildegarde 3 times now.
Oh.
Hildegarde herself is one of my second tier favorite characters. So like not my top favorites, but like just under that. So I do not have Valentine's Hildegarde myself, but looking at her kit, yeah, she definitely falls short by not having healing on her skill 2 because you need a lot of that in Volk. And while skill prep is nice and it's very useful in Volk in particular, striking strength debilitator with the 4-strike is a 70% chance to reduce enemy strength by 3% for 10 seconds. So I would have to assume that is per hit of the 4-strike, which hits 4 times per 4-strike, because otherwise that's not going to reduce the enemy strength a whole lot. And aside from that, like there's just healing pretty much. And I guess that's what a healer needs to do, but like the energy helps some units, but
Right.
with only one healing skill, healing is going to be a little bit tight, at least without shared skills.
And then obviously
so-
you could share like a Halloween Lowen or a Verica.
Yeah, but then
But
if
then,
you're
of
sharing
course-
Halloween Lowen onto her, then your Halloween Lowen needs to be 50 node.
Right.
So
right.
you might just well use them instead.
Right, it's the this is the Tobias Noel problem all over again.
Yeah.
Well, Noelle has a different chain co, or sorry, a different co ability.
Right. But more so along the lines of playing them together. Building one means you could just have the other one and not build 2 units, right, of the same class, unless you wanted to play healer, if that's really something that you wanted, right? But then of course for Flame it's kind of Lowen's ball game.
The other thing I want to mention on Hildegarde is her chain co ability is HP below 40 equals strength, which is kind of strange for a healer to have an HP below threshold.
That is true.
So
That is true.
That's really counterintuitive for her in particular. And I don't know if like you'd want to use that as a backline for something like Chelsea, for instance, but then like you have recovery potency as your main co ability, so That's just kind of strange.
Right, right. It seems like it's non-synergistic. In the context of Chelsea, right? It seems interesting because she would be able to heal more, given the recovery potency.
Well, isn't her healing based on the damage she does?
Yeah, it's 3%, I believe, of the total damage she deals, or maybe more. Let me double check it actually.
Yeah, so it heals you for 5%. Chelsea heals you for 5% of the damage done, and it caps her skill 1 anyway. Heals 5% of the damage done and caps at 7% of max HP per hit. So that wouldn't be affected by recovery potency because it's just a multiplier of the damage dealt. It's kind of like reflection skills, which we'll get more into with another unit we'll talk about later. That it's a number based entirely and only on another number. There's no other multiplication in there aside from the single modifier.
Right. Yeah.
Also, like, I feel like it's even less valuable because there aren't, aside from Chelsea, there aren't any low HP characters on Inflame. And Chelsea being the only one not being good already makes the HP below 40 not that impressive, I think.
That's true. Yeah, that's definitely a strike against her, at least for the time being, not having units that actually want her in the backline, right? I guess the final thing to look at for her is her shared skill, which is Blooming Love, the skill 1. So this skill is a standard HP regen healing skill, but it also increases team's energy by 1. It's also a cost of 6, and then the SP cost is 7.7k.
The shared SP cost is over 12,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah. The normal SP cost is 7.7k. The shared cost is 12k. Yeah. This one's tough. I'm probably going to say it's not worth it.
I'd say with an SP cost that high, a single level of energy is not going to get the team energized anywhere near quickly.
Right, or anywhere near impactful, right, for that to matter. Yeah, it's just, with a cost of 6, it's now you're really limiting what other shared skills you can run. So, I don't know. If I see a skill that costs 6 or 7, right away it's got to do something amazing for me. And if it doesn't do it, I just don't feel that it's worth the investment.
And it all, like, I don't know, if you want healing, there's Cleo's is not a regen, but it's free. And Verica is lower skill points cost and lower SP cost too. So
yeah, I unlocked Verica's skill as a shared skill because the stun cleanse is really useful in twins, and it would also be useful in Volk.
Yeah, and it's the same recovery mods as Valentine's Hildegarde. So yeah, I just don't think it's worth unlocking.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess she will stay in the options above not available position. Any other final thoughts you guys have, or would you like to move on to Ramona?
Yeah, let's.
That's it from me.
Alrighty, let's do it. So Ramona was an interesting movement. So Ramona initially was almost a staple pick for Master Midgar right back in the day. Now, I haven't even seen a single... have you guys seen Ramona at all in Masters Pub?
No.
I mean, I haven't... anecdotally, I've done almost my entire set of Masters runs, and I don't think I've seen a single Ramona. So, personally, I don't know if it's even worth mentioning for her placement overall. But if that's the case, right, and axes are not being filtered for in a public room, that might even be enough of a case to simply state that she's been relegated to off-meta. I think she can perform better than off-meta, I mean, her
Yeah.
DPS isn't terrible, but my master rooms, from what I've seen, the hosts are filtering for swords, they're filtering for blades, and they're filtering for staffs.
Daggers.
And daggers, and definitely daggers. Thank you for bringing
Sometimes
that.
lances.
I've seen lances a few times, especially
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the advent of Nadine. Lace, how have your pub rooms been for Master Volk?
I have never seen a Ramona.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the earlier things, like when she was first being used in Midgard Summer, it was nice because her skill 1 could iframe all of the spits, and those went in 3 directions, so she could bait all of those at once.
Right.
However, I think that's to her detriment in Volk because it locks her in place for so long, and if Volk is like moving around or doing a move that you need to dodge, well, you're suddenly stuck with your skill 1. So our skill 1 Forge Buster deals 1 hit of 376%, and then the next part, it deals 3 to 9 hits depending on how many times you tap the screen after. Now, of course, you typically want to always get off all these hits, and when you do, this is a 3,000% mod skill for 3,000 SP, which is huge. Like, as I did the math, I was looking at the wiki, it's like that's a lot of damage. Like, where's this
Right.
going? The thing to consider is this is damage over time, so it's a longer skill. So while you're using your skill, you're not getting your SP up, and yeah, that's her slight DPS loss, I want to say. But the rest of her kit isn't bad either. Her skill 2 is a team-wide defense buff. The downside is its SP cost is huge.
Yeah.
And then her abilities, she has strength double buff and primed strength. So whenever her skill 1 is ready, she gets a strength buff. And then if she's running on a team with a Halloween Lowen, or if she's running Valiant Crown, she'll just get like a bunch of strength buffs whenever she gets defense buffs. So, no, she's not terrible, but she's also going to be outperformed by other units, and that's why pubs are filtering her out, because her skill 1, because of the time it takes, makes her a little kind of unpredictable in terms of whether she's going to be able to be in the way, be out of the way, and how much damage she's going to be dealing over time.
Yeah, I could definitely see that in terms of she could quickly become a liability. Is she? So she's iframing the whole time through for that skill, correct? Like, right? She the whole skill itself. It's kind of like Howling Meteor, right? Where
so
she's continually moving and striking as she goes forward.
Yeah, but the problem with that is going to be purple attacks. So
Right,
imminent
right.
illness will cancel it. The spinning blades that move across the screen, you'll need to dodge those. And while she can move while using the extra hits, she
It's
can't move
slow.
quickly. She
Yeah.
can't move reliably. So
Right.
she
So
kind of
for
locks
yeah.
herself in place.
Yeah, it could be a situation of, she gets it up and running, and Volk is using the four-way diagonal tornadoes and the trap. And now she's bopped by one of the tornadoes. Those tornadoes do stun. I mean, that's more of a playability aspect of her, right? So player skill, of course, knowing when to use Forge Buster at timing. I think, though, for an axe, it is painful to see a 9k SP cost on her skill 2. I think is what the defense buff is, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That's really high. I mean, axes don't generate SP very quickly. It's like 1600 SP for a C5. So
Yeah, and their C5 is also decently slow. Her skill
Right.
2 is also her shareable skill. So
Yeah.
and it's only a 25% defense buff for 15 seconds.
Yeah, it is a 4 cost, which is
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the good news about it. So it costs less than Patia's shared skill, but Patia's shared skill also grants a strength buff.
Right, which is pretty big. 15% strength is, I mean, especially when you're probably going to be using that strength or that defense buff on double buff characters, right? Or at least trying to use it with Valiant Crown and other forms of double buff to stack up.
And it's basically the same SP cost too, so.
Right. Let's see anything of other value. I mean, her co-abilities. It's 15% defense and 6% strength when your HP is above 60%. That's okay. I think that kind of suffers from having Crom in the same grouping, because Crom can kind of give you decent bulk, and I don't know. Is that competitive? Is that fair to say that Crom kind of edges her out with better bulk, better like reliability? I mean, it's 10% HP, 10% strength alone is
Crom doesn't have
not
it
strength,
in
but
King Collab,
defense.
As far as defensive co-abilities go, Crom has the best one because the HP and defense are going to be a little more multiplicative than just pure defense and just HP, because each of those are only are a total of 15%, but Crom's ability is 10% of each, which together are going to be much larger.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
I also feel like the HP 60 collab, chain collab, is one of the weakest strength collabs, to be honest. Chain collabs.
That is
because
true.
even at 5-star, it's only a 6% strength buff. It's not a lot. When you have like things like prime strength, like Marths, or in this case above 10 hits, right?
Right.
The low HP are also give you a lot of strength. There's a lot of Dragon Claws chain collabs, and HP 60, it's an easy threshold to be at. 60 is really easy, but 6% is just not a lot. I really don't think it's worth putting on your backline.
Right.
At this point, just run Marth or something, or just a blade.
Well, we do. I mean, we do have multiple combo times, you know, as chain abilities as well, to even work alongside those higher.
And also the weapon itself. Like,
that's true. I mean, the weapon itself automatically gives an extra second of combo time. And in most cases, that's already more than enough for most units. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Ramona is probably a good spiral candidate at this point.
Definitely.
One thing I will say about her chain co is that strength is never an outright bad chain co. This is just the smallest amount you can get from it. So this is still better than something like Wind Res.
Right.
Oh,
because like Crom, for instance, who has a more defensive co-ability, has Wind Res as a chain co-ability. So it's not the worst, but I wouldn't invest in it specifically for this chain co.
Right. Although the one value, again, talking about Crom, and I know we probably will talk about this again, having Crom give Wind Res and HP and defense is like the biggest smorgasbord of multiplicative defense buffs.
Yeah.
You get it all. I mean, you get Ellie Res, you get HP, you get defense, and that all is going to play extremely nice. I know it's burn equals user res, which is probably the worst one.
Yep.
But still, I mean, pretty much everyone and their mom in flame burns. So, like, you're going to have some access to it at some point. And even if you don't have the Wind Res access, I mean, the HP and the defense alone is already so valuable. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll leave him for now, and we can obviously dive more on Crom in a little bit. I think that wraps Ramona for the time being. The only other thing I want to mention as a closing thought is at the time of recording, we don't have news or access to what the Force Strike update is going to look like for the bow, wand, staff, and axe. So as a disclaimer for these units like Ramona, which I don't think that would affect her kit too much, but characters like Chelsea, characters like Valentine's Hildegarde that have Force Strikes in their kit, these are becoming mobile Force Strikes, and I don't know if it's how it's going to change, but I do know that they're mobile. That may affect them minorly, or depending on what the new Force Strikes look like, this could be a major change for those weapon classes in general. So something that we may have to look at more closer in the future to see if this affects anything. But for the time being, we won't necessarily be able to factor them in.
I don't think the Force Strike change is going to change anything majorly. I think it's going to work like Hunter Cerise's Force Strike, except instead of like the linear Force Strike, you'll just be able to move, and the target will just target the closest.
Yeah, me too.
That would be interesting. Yeah, if it is that minimal. See, the thing is most likely what's going to happen is it's that portion of the update is going to come out at the end, right, of the month. So the update will come right before Master Cayenne, and they'll probably give us details on what that'll look like. I believe that was the announcement that they said they would do those 4 strikes for this an update later this month, as in July. If so, you know, maybe the playability of Valentine's Hildegarde sees a little more value with the strength debilitation. I know this is kind of a reach, right?
The only character that I can see affected by this is maybe Chelsea.
Yeah, yeah.
The rest is...
At least with keeping alive, right? I mean, if she can now move more freely with her 4 strikes, and if 4 striking is more the way that a bow weapon class is going, you know, that would greatly improve a Chelsea player's skill level. It would, you know, of course, bring the skill floor closer to the skill ceiling with that kit. The other kind of closing thought on that, I know I'm kind of going off on a massive tangent with these 4 strikes. I find them exciting, so obviously I want to dive on them. We had a new passive with the debuff passive, so like increasing bleed time, increasing debuff time. I think a print would be a good starting place to help Valentine's Hildegarde, to, you know, like a debuff time print, if you will, so she could stack more of those strength downs on the boss.
Yeah,
the problem with that, the ability is debuff skill time, kind of like buff skill time.
Oh,
it's debuffs applied by skills, and that is a debuff applied by a 4 strike in her kit.
Okay, that's a good point.
And even then, I don't think it would make such a big difference.
It's 10 seconds,
quite a lot.
So every 10% is an additional single second. So with 20%, you'd get like 2 more seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe, I mean, she's probably going to need a compounded work of a Spiral plus Prince. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Plus, it's a strength down, not a defense down. So.
Right. So it's more about raising your team's survivability versus actually dealing more damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then we can move on until we have more information. Then of course we'll have more things to talk about. So next unit on the list would be Student Maribelle. So let's see. This is kind of, I don't know. Student Maribelle, again, I'm gonna go with off meta for her. Wands themselves are already not really in the flame meta. Additionally, Student Maribelle doesn't. I don't know. Her DPS is only okay.
Her DPS is actually on par with Xenia.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, let me peep it real quick to make sure.
Well,
she burns?
She doesn't.
No.
She does not burn.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a caveat there.
Uh-huh.
In that Xenia and Student Maribelle both have skill damage, but Student Maribelle is full HP equals skill damage.
Yeah. But, I honestly think Student Maribelle would be, average. Because she has the defense down, she has, Broken Punisher, which combos with the Kenji Couriers.
Okay.
She has really good damage on break.
Actually,
like
she will, yeah.
Pretty much everyone, like everyone has, but Student Maribelle especially.
Yeah, because Broken Punisher.
Yeah. Staying at full HP as a ranged character, especially with healers on the team, is not that hard. And her damage is like personal damage, not counting the defense down, is only like 200, I think, lower than Xenia, which is honestly not a noticeable difference. And if you could take the defense down into consideration, which is not guaranteed, but it still like will happen sometimes. She gets higher than Xenia. Not burning, it's also good. Um, with how Marth is popular nowadays, you don't get the overburn so quickly. So at this point, with how burn is easy to get, with how easy it is to be at full HP with range units with a low end on the team, and with the amazing burst damage that certain Maribel has on break, I would honestly say she's better than Xenia. Not enough to make her A, but definitely on average at least.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I think I was a little more harsh with her. So, yeah, I mean, actually, not inflicting burn is actually helpful for her kit. Um, she can run with Marth, right? And not have to worry about overcapping or stepping on his toes for burn. I actually, this is my first time. I must have glazed over this, but the Broken Punisher stacking with Candy Couriers, and the fact that she has access to the additional skill damage from full HP will make a dragon like Mars on her be even more impactful. I mean, the shape shift ending ability on her, leading up to a break, right, where she gets the bonus strength from Mars, is definitely not going to be displayed on the DPS simulator. It's correct. They don't account for break on that. And she's looking at like 55. Is it 55? It's 55% break Broken Punisher. I believe, right? Because it's 25 from Candy Couriers and 30% from her passive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know. I definitely think that. I don't know. Is it wrong of me with that? I mean, typically when playing in Volk, and this is more of an open-ended question for either one of you, you see one break, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah. Around one break, sometimes two.
And Volk does have pretty big HP. Have either one of you guys played with a Maribel enough to know her break?
I have a story about Student Maribel that isn't from Volk.
Okay.
So, back when, let's see, I think it was the Gust Shroom, and we had like an epithet to clear it in like 15 seconds or something.
Sure.
So like, this is back when it first came out, and this was actually a hard thing to do. I ran in a pre-made group with a Student Maribel, and we broke the sucker really quick. We all ran Dragon Prep, and we broke really quick. And then the Student Maribel deleted it. Student Maribel just deletes on break. It's insane. I know back in the time attack for the Dragon Trials, like Student Maribel was used to delete on break there as well. So yeah, her Broken Punisher is very strong in that regard. And then the fact that she doesn't rely on burn for her DPS, and that she doesn't burn period, is a positive thing for her with the oversaturation of burn. Yeah. So the fact that she doesn't apply it means she's not going to be capping that out. And so, yeah, full HP equals skill damage is a very strict requirement. But in Volk, as long as you're dodging all the small attacks, the undodgeables, the healer is prepared to deal with those and heal everyone back to full. And as a ranged unit, she has a much easier time dodging the smaller hits.
Yeah. Maybe I would even put her on A. If we're putting Rena on A, yeah, maybe I would put sort of Maribel on A.
She's still just kind of average, I want to say. I'd rank her with Xenia.
Yeah, but yeah.
The big difference between her and Xenia is Xenia burns, and Xenia does not have Broken Punisher.
Right.
Xenia, sort of Maribel also has a defense debuff. But if we're putting sort of Maribel there, I would then maybe put Rena on B+2. Because City Maribel has even better damage than Rena, especially if you take break into account, and she doesn't burn.
You know what? Because of the ability to do break, with the couriers. I'm just gonna pull her to A. I know it's probably a disagreeable with everyone type pull. The deal is, Student Maribelle isn't a sought after pub master pick, right?
That's true.
But I think that the missing something category could be, I don't know. This is difficult. This I feel like this could be a reach to go for A, right? The reach in going for A is that if you're telling everyone that the unit is strong and is worth playing, but is fundamentally missing something, the missing something category can't be that your pub room doesn't search for you or your weapon class, because then you'll never find a room.
I mean,
some rooms search for ones.
Like
I've seen some.
like for example, Rena is an A right as a blade because Nobu gets fished for. Rena can fill that slot. It's not
True.
necessarily optimal, right? I'm sure the people that are searching for blades are preferring Nobunaga, but I don't know. I'm not sure I'm in a position to say that people would be fishing for a wand, because if they do fish for that wand, then Zania will come
Mega
through.
Man.
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, yeah. I mean, first of all, there's a Mega Man situation, which is obviously like just me playing Mega Man. Like I don't, I don't think I've literally seen anybody else play Mega Man. But and I could be corrected. I mean, Mega Man, he's his own little ball game. We'll talk to him in a bit. The situation is that since Zania has higher might from her spiral, there's a chance that if you actually open your room to Student Maribelle, you run the risk of having an unoptimized Zania trying to sneak into your public room.
Well, the other thing with that is Zanias are much more common, because as a 3-star, many more players have her.
Yeah.
As a
Right.
3-star, taking her up to 50 node and even 70 node is much cheaper than a normal unit. So,
right.
and like I'd say that whether people look for her, like the whether people want her or not does not change the fact or not fact that she is good. Like it's not about what people want; it's about what people can get.
Yeah.
So
she prefers
even if
better
she's
than Rena.
better than Zania, because of her non-reliance on burn specifically for that, like
Right.
regardless or not, people who open up to wands in pubs are probably going to get Zania.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel it's wrong putting her below Rena because she performs better than Rena. So I would either put her on A or Rena on B+.
I mean, I might knock Rena down to B+.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's good, but like she's got burn, which is going to be oversaturated, and all her abilities are geared towards self-preservation.
Yeah.
I think what I'll
So-
do then is remove Rena to between Maribelle and Zania.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And this is interesting because I think this is the first like character or situation where we've really had like a split on opinion. And yeah, I mean it's, I don't know, I like obviously the public rooms and the public meta and the settings, they get hard stuck in a particular comfortability.
Yeah.
So without having extensive testing on playing with Student Maribelle, I don't know, Student Maribelle came out in a weird position because she came out in a position where burn meta was taking off and she could not burn. And now that burn meta is on the tail end of being over, she never really had a chance to shine like publicly.
Yeah.
And I think it's really just because anybody who wanted to play Wand saw Zania and was like, I'll just spiral Zania. I don't need to pull for this 5-star unit. Or I didn't pull for Student Maribelle and I didn't get her.
And it's a cheap spiral too.
Right, and so then they decided to spiral Zania. Zania did well. Zania did her burn. Everyone was happy. And now we're in a position where Zania's burn works against her. Student Maribelle has more tools in her toolbox, right? The broken punish, the defense down. I think I'm comfortable with that placement. Unless anyone who really likes Student Maribelle wants to prove us wrong and show some crazy break videos. with her doing break.
She's got some crazy break damage, but like.
So I don't know if that's enough to merit her her movement for now. But it is something to keep in mind, right? That's
if
not.
If she does get the Spiral on the future, she's gonna be fucking.
Yeah, a Spiral on Student Maribelle would be insane with Broken Punisher and skill damage.
Yeah.
On there.
Fire mods.
Yeah.
Maybe Burn Punisher on
Broken Punisher and Overdrive Punisher.
That would be crazy.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
That would be nuts.
But yeah, I think she's average.
Yeah,
I think that's better with Rena there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, once again, she has a wand, so maybe we see some magical moving force strike shenanigans. Who knows? But more than likely not. But you know, I will continue to cross my fingers and hope for a total weapon class shakeup with these force strikes. So we shall see. It'll be like Roll 2.0 update. You know what I mean? So, all right, let's move on. I think we've beaten her enough for now. We'll leave Student Maribelle alone. Let's. You guys want to talk about the most unfortunate spiral I think that we've ever seen with Naveed?
Not the most
I can one up you with that idea.
Yeah.
There's
Cassandra.
Oh well, Cassandra's is definitely.
Cassandra is definitely worst case scenario.
Oh,
Cassandra,
boy.
Halloween Lowen, and Ciliara. Yeah, but.
You mean original Lowen?
No, not Lowen.
I don't know. This is gonna be a really hot take, guys.
You said Halloween Lowen. Oh, Halloween Ellie.
Yeah.
For Naveed, I'm really tempted just to dump him into Don't Build.
I would put him on off.
But I mean, I know like he'll perform, right?
Yeah, like I wouldn't put him lower than off meta.
So
like above option is not available at the absolute lowest.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's not bad.
Because here's my thing that always irks me with Naveed. He's a 5-star unit, and like, I know it. Okay, so the tier list itself is playability. It's the characters and how they perform, and so truly where he would shine at the very minimum is off meta, possibly even average, because he could be valuable and compete with Student Maribelle, Rena, Zania, the rest of the list. I mean, he's definitely. I mean, he's definitely like in this area, right? I think because he doesn't burn, I'll probably say realistically he's like beyond Zania.
Yeah.
In terms of viability, and additionally now, the other valuable thing about the co-op rooms is that his co-ability doesn't clash with anybody's. It's not like you're stacking Dragon Haste for no reason, right? Like you can only have one sword in your lobby, as they had in the past. His damage, I don't know.
It's not bad.
He's
really
very
isn't
similar
bad.
To a Dragon Claws character, right? So Dragon Claws characters get strength buffs through the fight as they dragon up. And he's very similar in how he works. His skill 2 Radiant Bauble grants him a permanent buff that upgrades his skill 1 permanently. And when it's fully upgraded, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
His Spiral made his first ability, which was Slayer Strength, a bit more viable for boss fights by giving it a Flurry Strength.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the other thing is he gets a lot of defense. So his skill 2 raises his defense by 20%, and his third ability, when spiraled, is 100% skill prep, but also an additional 20% when he uses his skill 2. Mm-hmm. So when he uses his skill 2, which has an SP cost of 3,500, is a 40% defense buff. So he's a very reliable unit. He's very, very sturdy, and once the fight gets going, he actually deals a good chunk of damage with his skill 1 that also dispels, so that's nice.
And has the low SP cost. Really low SP cost.
That is true, yeah. And he does have potent sleep res, so at least he'd be in a position where he could sit with Marth.
Yeah, like the fact that like Marth is so much better does not mean he's so much worse, because he's still really good amongst the rest of these units. It's just if like a pub is filtering for swords, they're probably going to be expecting a Marth.
Right. And when they see the Naveed, you know, they're going to be a little disappointed.
Yeah, because again, Naveed is a ramping type unit. Like he gets his power over time, so he's not good for speed clears. He's not good for cheese runs. He's good for reliable runs.
Right. And they definitely, I mean, in the Spiral, right, they definitely they fixed it with his Slayer Strength, giving it Slayer Flurry. having the extra strength for the combo count. So it kind of builds him towards running combo. He also doesn't burn, which again is going to be a positive for him in that context. And he is sleep, so I guess technically speaking, you could run him alongside Marth.
The Dispel is also nice.
And the Dispel. I mean, you have access to the Dispel, right? I feel like this shared skill feature, having Ranzel as a free Dispel, really punishes him. It really punishes him for having that as one of his unique.
It doesn't punish, but it's definitely less valuable than before.
Right. I mean, technically speaking, he could also run it. Now he has 2 skills that Dispel.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is Ranzel's shared skill has a higher SP cost.
Right.
The other thing is like the other forms of Dispel we have, because like Yuden's Dragon form can Dispel and Nobunaga's Force Strike can Dispel. So there are a lot of different types of Dispel nowadays. So this is just one of the ones you can use.
Yeah,
Right.
You don't have to Dispel a lot on Volk too, so just sometimes. So I think
in Master Volk, you kind of need to do it so that he doesn't kill you outright.
You don't die though.
It depends on like how fast the run is. If it's a fast run, you're fine. But
Right.
like in a longer run with like a normal non-cheese clear comp with like maybe just 1 or 2 Marths, like.
But even then, the Ranzel skill is enough to get him.
Yeah. Because he doesn't give himself a lot of strength buffs.
Yeah.
Right. You also have
like
you have Mars to consider in this element specifically. And Mars kind of mitigates SP costs, right? It makes the shared skill SP cost, specifically in Flame, less important due to the fact that you will have your skills available when you're shifting with Mars. So, yeah, see, I don't know. I mean, the one kicker that hurts, right, is beyond playability, his backline is pretty much trumped by Marth. If you're running a backline for Dragon Haste, Marth has the 10 hit strength, so it's going to beat out Naveed's. Naveed's got this HP 60, right, equal strength.
I mean, like when compared to Marth, yeah, if you have to choose between Marth and Naveed, you're gonna pick Marth.
Right. I mean, outside of playability, just purely from backline potential. I don't know. I think playability really sits him on average. I mean, I think he can get the job done. If Volk was more about survivability and there was a lot more unavoidable damage in his fight, I think Naveed would be a much stronger unit.
Yeah.
But
the other thing with that is Naveed is very selfish with his defense buffs. They're only for him. They're not team buffs.
Right. But then again, I mean, the positive side to it is how big they get. I mean, you can have multiple defense buffs running on him. Of course, with if you had a Halloween Low-End right now, you have the extra max HP, and then you have the extra the defense, minimal extra bonus defense from his skill. Yeah, I don't know. In a game that doesn't have a benefit or merit for tanks, Naveed is essentially in the wrong content.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, with how they've designed his spiral, right, he doesn't lose out on any passive. It's just that he's way tankier than he needs to be, is I guess what I'll say, for Volk specifically.
It's still a net positive, it's just unnecessary.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
sad reality because there are so many units in Dragalia Lost, and then there needs to be like diversity between them, so you like build different ones and play different ones. A lot of units just don't have content. Like
Right.
Chelsea, for instance, would flourish much more in a fight like High Mercury, and Naveed would flourish much more in a fight with a lot more undodgeable moves.
Right.
So it's like Marth is just better for Volk.
Right.
So until we get like the next end game win content,
Yeah.
like that's just how it is.
Right. And of course, for anyone listening, the disclaimer is that Straitlace is not talking about the specific fight. Obviously, a flame unit in a water based boss would not be a good idea, but instead the inherent strategy of that fight, where in
you just don't
Mercury's
take
case,
damage after opening blast.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like a wind fight where like you like take damage once and that's it, and then all other damage is optional.
Yeah.
Or
So-
not optional in Naveed's case.
Right. And Naveed simply eats through it. It would really be interesting to see a boss in the future that had true aggro, right? I mean, imagine Naveed's selfish with his defense utility, and being the closest unit is the only one soaking up repeated hits, like a true tank or a bruiser.
In the current content, we have defense units have some of the least utility, for anyone, because any damage you take, a healer heals up, and that's only if you take damage. Like in fights like High Mercury, you only bring attack units and maybe support units.
Right.
And support units that buff attack.
Especially with shared skills now, that everyone can run just skill, healing skills.
With the fact of the matter, your clear condition is by defeating an enemy, and you do that with attack, with strength. So support units can support that, but defense units that buff survivability, you only need to buff survivability if death is really on the table. And as long as you have a healer, like Allen, Lowen, and Volk, that's not on the table much.
Right. Yeah. Well.
So, yeah, I'd stick Naveed solidly in average.
I think he's in a good spot. Laura, do you have any other closing thoughts on Naveed? I'm gonna move along to a certain blue boy.
No.
If not.
I think it's fine.
Yes, Giroda.
Oh no, please. The other one, the android. Mega Man. I really actually want to place Mega Man somewhere on the tier list, but I would be kidding myself to go any higher than B-.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bottom line is Mega Man is the only one with an overdrive Punisher and I believe also Gauge Accelerator, right? On his kit. That's a unique co-ability to him still, and his event came almost a year ago now, I want to say. Like 9 months ago?
No, yeah, it was kind of in the later months of last year.
It was like November, right?
Yeah, it was somewhere around that, because I knew
November,
we were all
October.
anticipating Monster Hunter, and then we got Mega Man instead.
Yeah, I remember
And
seeing
then Monster Hunter came the end of January.
I remember being like, bro, what? So, okay, definitely from a co-ability perspective, I'll start right about off the bat. Skipping kind of playability, just talk about his backline. Overdrive Punisher, I believe the mods are what, 13 and 15? 13% overdrive and 15% accelerator?
15 and 10, actually.
Yeah.
Did they change those by chance from what
No,
was
I don't
data
think
mined initially?
I don't know from the initial data mine, but
Was it?
this is really funny because I was thinking a while back about if they ever did custom co-abilities, what could they do? And Gauge Accelerator was something I was if they ever made that would go really good on swords. And this does. It goes really good on swords that love to eat overdrive.
Right.
Although, that being said, it's really hard to beat things like strength, skill damage, and critical rate. So, even though it's a good co-ability, it still has some competition, especially with that chain co-ability.
But I do want to add, it's not I wouldn't run Mega Man on my backline, but I do want to add that, especially in Agito nowadays, it is getting a little better, because Agito's stay in overdrive for so much time, and as the meta is evolving right now into a burst damage on break, a lot of characters just save skills for break and do a lot of damage on break.
Right.
Getting the break faster and doing more damage in overdrive, that is the majority of the time of the Agito fights. It is getting a little better. I still wouldn't run him on my backline, but yeah, it's a cool collab.
Well, you do have in Master Volk, right? He starts into overdrive right away.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Basically every Agito though, actually. The Agitos don't.
They only have one master.
The humanoid forms don't actually have a drive gauge at all.
True, but
Um,
the phase 1 is really fast for every Agito too.
very
so-
true. Very true. Very true. Very true. Yeah. So the only other thing, right, is Mega Man as a unit, right? Like as a playable unit, he has 35% gauge accelerator in his passive, and he has 10% gauge accelerator in his Koeb.
Mhm.
And then he's got the Overdrive Punisher, and he's got a unique Force Strike. Now the interesting thing will be, and obviously this can't be factored into his placement right now, but the interesting thing will be, once again, if he gains access to moving with a Force Strike as a wand with the update.
I don't think he will, considering he has a custom Force Strike.
Because he does have multiple charges on his Force Strike.
Yeah, I mean he could, but I don't. It could be something like Hunter Cerese's.
Right?
But given that it's not a standard wand Force Strike, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I really hope that they do, and they're like, oh, oops, Force Strike for Mega Man, because if his kit is designed around Gauge Accelerator and Overdrive, then Force Striking is really the direction that his kit should go. I don't know. We'll have to see. For the time being, and just as a plug, I did master with with Mega Man. I think I have actually the recording on my guide.
You said that
yes,
that Steel Vitality upright killed you.
yeah. So if you don't have a backline healer, right, or like a HP or a defensive buff on Mega Man, and you're also not running with a Lowen that is looking to buff your HP, Mega Man dies at full HP.
Yeah, so there's a reason for that. So on top of being a ranged unit with slightly lower
the
defense,
lowest HP.
he has the lowest base HP in the game by a
painful.
margin.
It's so
Yeah,
painful.
so second place, like the original bottom place was Taro at 701.
Okay.
Aldred ties him at 701, and Mega Man falls to 688.
Oh, that's
Got the
it's
lowest
so
base
painful.
HP in the game.
Yeah, I think the way that I ended up mitigating it was the HP buff from Halloween Lowen, and then I was forced into using the Agito skill to flip to the HP regen plus defense buff
Oh wow.
to stay alive.
Yeah. Looking at just Flame Adventurers, he's at 688. Second lowest is Laxi at 703, and third lowest is Vanessa at 720. So he's 22 base HP lower than third lowest.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Nobunaga at fourth jumps up to 740, so he's like way down there.
Yeah, that's pain.
He dies to anything.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Really fragile.
yeah, maybe we'll get a Mega Man Part 2 collab and something spicy
Hopefully.
will happen. For now, his co-ability is a thing.
Yeah. He has bleed.
That is true. He
True.
does have bleed, and the mods are based on his strength, right? So having Mars does make him marginally better.
Marginally better.
Marginally better. Oh gosh. That's pain. But yes, that's a good pun. Yeah, Laura, what else were you gonna say?
The bleed is nice, but with shared skills, I still wouldn't run any of them, right? But
Yeah.
if you somehow really want bleed, you can just run some.
Well, like
shared
he
skills.
doesn't even have a shared skill as a welfare unit. And the other thing
Yeah.
is because his two skills aren't skills, they're like alternate regular fire, they're not affected by skill damage. So
Yeah.
shared skills are going to have diminishing returns either way, because if you equip
Yeah.
skill damage, you're not getting it on his
but
main abilities. And if you
I'm
don't,
not saying
you're not
this
gonna
on Mega
skill.
Man specifically. I'm just saying like if you somehow really want bleed on your team, instead of running Mega Man, I'd rather take
use the friend.
Yasu shared
Yeah.
skill. Yeah.
You know
Which
what's-
again, I wouldn't run, but if you for some reason wants bleed that badly, I would just run Yasu shared skill.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's interesting as well, and this is like really painful. So you know how we're talking about shared skills, right?
Yeah.
So you know that Mega Man has access to shared skills,
Mhm.
like
He can
all
equip
other
them,
units, right?
Uh-huh.
Do you know what his SP gain is for his C5?
Oh,
Good question. No, I don't.
Because I just
didn't
looked
know.
it up while you guys were chatting, and I knew it was bad because, again, I played Mega Man.
yeah,
It's 400 SP for his C5.
that's so bad.
Now, granted, his C5 is fast, but
Is it fast enough though
it's
to compensate that?
it's like 3 seconds, maybe 2 at the most.
Yeah,
It's like bop
that's
bop
not
bop bop
good.
bop, right, and then
Yeah,
you're done.
I feel like that's just gonna be like because his combo's so fast relative to other combos, he's still gonna generate SP slower. His 4-strike gives 400 SP, so you could use him as like a 4-strike only unit.
Right, which is again where I was thinking mobile 4-strike.
Well, yeah, because that's the other thing is his overdrive modifier first 4-strike is 4 times. And then he has 40% gauge accelerator. So
Right. And then the overdrive punisher, right, to really hammer it home. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if he goes the more 4-strike route and they actually give him the benefit of the doubt with that, and make him a mobile 4-striker, he may be a little bit better. Again, though, the survivability aspect of Steel Vitality is pretty painful. Again, as a note, as a footnote for that, my tree was maxed, my weapon was at tier 2, right? Everything on Mega Man was completely maxed. All my facilities, all my worm prints, everything, all augments. He didn't even hit 10k, right? Because welfare. He was like 9-7.
Does he get the skill prep with the Mars? Or
Yes, but only on the skills that are shared. And unfortunately, because you're not running skill damage prints, your third skill is almost always going to be the weapon skill.
Yeah.
Right? Because the strength buff is the permanent strength buff, or the healing defense buff is probably more valuable.
Yeah. I mean, that's for the most part of the flame characters, but
Right.
he has his access to the shared skills is worse than the rest of the cast. I guess you can run just run Patia's skill, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe Xiao Wuxing.
Patias and those are they just take way too long to charge.
That's true.
So what I did, and this is for reference, is I used I mean, nowadays, if I were to play it, and I'm not saying that you should, but the only shared skill that makes sense to me to run on Mega Man is the weapon skill, because it's low SP cost, easy to use, and Lily.
Yeah, I guess.
You'll get the freeze, right? So you'll stop gales from happening, and you can also stop Blood Moon, because remember, Mega Man's DPS is not bursty. So he is not going to be helping the team do Blood Moon. He is not going to be helping the team, kill the boss quickly, if you will. Over time, yeah, his DPS is fine. It's actually pretty solid with the Leaf Shield when you roll around the boss.
Yeah.
But that means you will always have Lily's skill ready for when you need to CC the boss. And being utility is probably more worthwhile than a random buff that you could probably only get off like one time.
I was thinking, even like Xiao Wuxing for break.
That maybe. I mean, maybe
But,
yeah. That could be decent too.
It's
some kind of
think
utility.
Yeah, it's man. I really wish Mega Man was like broken.
Right. The other thing that's really punishing is that you know how his skill 1 and his skill 2 change his auto attack animation, his standard attacks. The metal disc and the leaf shield are your autos.
Yeah.
They consume ammo, but they do not give you SP.
Are they buffed by Tiki's co-ability?
They are.
Yeah. Which is
so
nice.
you get a 20% bonus to damage for Tiki, but they do not generate SP, which again makes me feel like the Agito weapon is best for third slot, and then the fourth slot is gonna have to be a utility. I personally used Dragalia Cleo's skill because it's like 3k SP or 4k SP cost, really low cost.
I can't think of a single unit that doesn't want the Agito weapon skill for flame though.
Yeah,
well,
it's pretty good.
Pretty much Marth.
I mean, it's probably why like the water skills were so much smaller, is because it encourages shared skills, because you're losing much less if you share something in its place.
Right. And then for some units, right, like Tiki and Hunter Cerise, the weapon skill is better for them.
Yeah. So with Flame, you want the weapon skill because it's such a nice buff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that kind of covers Mega Man for the most part. He definitely just needs a little love, maybe a new collab potential for him.
Hopefully.
So we can kind of go into another unit that might need a few extra dabbles of love with the failed aspect of counter. Is going to be Leia. Honestly, though, she's just a don't build. I don't know if you guys have her in like a higher position. She does have a unique chain co-ability, right? With the HP below, is it 60?
Yeah.
I believe for healing. It's the same as what Xena has for Shadow, actually, but hers obviously for Flame.
Yep, she's the only one in it. She's the only one with that chain co and flame.
But I guess as a brief overview, Lace, we discussed the healing potential for that, and inherently, if you go below, I believe the healing alone does not bring you back over 60%.
It won't bring you back to full, no.
So let's see. Yeah, I'm just taking a look.
Yeah, it'll do about 20%, 24%, give or take.
Right. So
if you drop to like 59%, it'll take you up to like 79%.
Right. But if you drop lower than 40, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
For that passive. Yeah. Now I guess with the HP regen from the second half of the Agito weapon, you could force your way back in. But then obviously you're losing the strength buff, so I don't know. Beyond that, her damage is low. She has potential with the Force Strike, but it's just not enough.
Well, like, she only has Striking Haste of 12% as her third ability.
That's also
and
true.
That just means for every Force Strike, she gets 12% more SP from the Force Strike. So, like, when a sword Force Strikes, the sword Force Strike gives a certain amount of SP. Leah gets 12% more. So that's nice because she's a sword and she uses Force Strike so often, and she has a Force Strike passive as well. But that's just it. That's the entirety of the Force Strike in her kit. The rest of her kit's very anti-cohesive with it.
True, especially with the length. I believe Road to Glory is the same animation as the High Dragon Flame weapon skill for sword.
Yeah,
which is just painfully long.
She was a little better when she came out because that was pre-Spiral and Burn was less of a thing then. So she had Burn to her name, but then Spirals came out and she just lost like everything. Yeah. Because her skill 2 is a reflection skill. So it deals like 600% on its own, and it doesn't have too high of an SP cost, but the bulk of the damage, it deals 1,100% of the damage taken, and there's just not really anywhere to use that in current content. It's not her damage, it's entirely dependent on how much she takes from the enemy, which means you can't just pop this skill whenever, you need to pop it when you're reflecting something. And then the healer has to compensate for that.
Yeah, it's especially in a position where she's a flame sword and her competition is, well, a lot. You have Marth, you have Yuden, you have Krom. I mean, it's...
Yeah, Hunter Berserker in there.
Yeah, you do. So
I mean, within don't build these. If you had absolutely nothing else above her, I would build her over Marty.
You can, yeah, I guess, but
I might not build her over Valentine's or Ryan. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
you don't want the curse res.
Yeah. So
yeah,
but within the element, she suffers the same way Cassandra does. Cassandra has a mana spiral, which makes her a little better.
Right.
But a little better with no content, still have no content.
Yeah.
Like, Fjorm is the other one with the reflection style kit, and she is a bit better in twins because she has multiple utilities on her skill 1. She can freeze and frostbite, and that's much more important in that fight than burn is in Volk. And additionally, the twins also have a lot more, like, slightly lesser undodgeable moves that Fjorm can reflect much more frequently, as well as Fjorm's Mana Spiral allows her reflect to heal herself. So Leah's just over here with some burn, which is going to get capped out pretty quickly in the burn meta right now,
Right.
as well as reflection that only reflects. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I think that covers it for her too. I really don't want to beat a dead horse. She's definitely in a position where she needs a spiral to look like Fjorm. I think some kind of additional healing would be good. More upfront mod damage would also be valuable for her skill. Maybe a lower the cast time or increase the speed at which she does her skill 1. Yeah, I don't know. She's right now is just please don't build her. I just unless it's waifu reasons, right? But even then, I just build Yuden or any other flame sword for that matter. Maybe not Marty. Maybe not Marty. All right, let's look into Nobunaga next, and then of course I'm gonna place her, which in my opinion I'm gonna say A+ for her. I don't know. Do you guys think that's too high? I mean, I know here's the deal, right? She was extremely potent and very strong, especially after the changes that were made to her kit. You know, upon release she was weak, and then they straight up just modified her and increased her raw numbers, to which point she became phenomenal. And then she was a very strong pick, right, for a while, and then there was a bug where it reverted her I think it's burning ambition damage. That caused people to be scared to play with her because of the lowered bug damage. But despite that, you know, now that that's been fixed and she's back to her former glory, I do believe that she's a very strong pick to put alongside in the meta. So I think A+ is fair. Is a fair assessment. Now, yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
She also has, like, the thing is, she's currently the best Blade collab. Because of all combo time, especially because everyone is running PC on Master Volk Primal Crisis, so it helps a lot. I would put her on A+ definitely, because even though, like, she has the, I think Lace would say it, but she doesn't rely on burn to get her max damage.
Right. I would say that, yes.
Yeah. But we talk about that off camera. But even at her maximum potential, she doesn't quite reach the other characters. She's still amazing. Like, don't She's still, like, really solid. She has amazing damage. One of the best collabs on the element. But it's just that the other characters can perform a little bit better than her. So yeah, I would put her on A+. The best A+ probably. She's really, really good.
Well, that's actually a good point. I mean, she probably does, you know, with the Dispel, at least the access she has to it. And then Lace, of course, you know, as playing with Nobunaga, and to the extent that you've played with Nobunaga, I think, has she been your main for Volk?
Nobunaga is currently my main for Volk. Like, I have a fully built Marth with a Agito Tier 2 Max Unbound, and I'm currently working on unbinding a Mars that I just picked up. And I still choose to play Nobunaga because she's fun. So, it's true that her damage isn't going to be as high as the others, but you'll see with a lot of units where they'll have slightly reduced damage, but they'll make up for it with utility. So, there are a couple things to note about Nobunaga. First of all, her Burning Ambition is a buff she applies with her first skill, Dream Offensive. Now, this is counted as a buff on the enemy, so you dispel it by, you know, dispelling. And she can do that with her skill 2 or with a 4-strike if she has a combo of at least 15%. Now, back before Chainco abilities existed, this was a problem if you had multiple Nobunagas on the team, because Burning Ambition does not stack. There can only be one. So if you had multiple Nobunagas and they both use skill 1 at the same time, one of them would miss with the Burning Ambition. So this is much less of a problem with Chainco abilities because she can maintain her combo time and dispel Burning Ambition immediately. So because her third ability is World's Dream, and basically when she has a combo count of 15 or higher, this allows her to dispel whenever, like anytime. So this is compounded with her Chainco combo time, which helps her keep that, as well as the Agito tier 2 ability with its first skill, which adds another second of combo time. And this ties into with her first ability, Flurry Strength, which is a 20% strength increase when the combo count is 15 or higher. So, all in all, she's got a really cohesive kit. Her first skill applies a buff, her second skill and third ability dispel buffs, and her third ability and first ability activate when she's above 15 combo count or higher. And it all ties into strength and damage. So, it's a very cohesive kit, which is something I like a lot. And yeah, she's a blade, which means she's got that sweet, sweet blade 4-strike for moving around the enemy and never getting hit.
Yeah. That'll definitely do. Let's see. Anything else then for Nobu or Art by chance?
No, I don't think there is. Yeah, that's basically it.
All right, we can move along then to the next blade, Mikoto. Now, Mikoto definitely not as potent as Nobunaga. I'm trying to see. I don't know. I'm bouncing between off meta and average personally.
I think it's average.
It pains me to say it. I might put him in off meta, but like, because Mikoto, he's one of my 3 favorite units. He was my first 5-star. He's the reason I like Blades so much. But because he was in the original cast, his damage is lackluster in the current meta.
Right. And
even though his kit is really strong, his mods are not, because it's been so long since his release.
Yeah, his shared skill is okay.
No, his shared skill is bad.
Yeah, I mean the thing is.
Sorry, I was thinking of his first skill. No, yeah, his second skill.
His shared skill is attack rate, right? And it's okay, but the fact is that Summer Luca's exist, and it's just all around better.
Yeah, Summer Luca's is better, and like even then, it's not very good, especially considering it's an over 10,000 SP cost, almost 11,000 for a 10-second buff.
Right.
That's just attack rate by 20%.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He's definitely a candidate for a spiral. I mean, Elirez and strength it's not as good as what Nobu's is with combo time.
Yep.
So.
But yeah, so the good thing about him is he has a very, very cohesive kit. So his first skill, Ravenous Fire, has a skill shift on it, and if I think this is the case, it is the only timed skill shift in the game. So when you do a skill shift unit, you'll see a buff appear after you've used it the first and second time that keeps track of the shift. And this is a permanent buff until you use the skill again. However, with Mikoto, that buff has a timer on it. So if you don't use the skill again before that timer runs out, you lose your shift and you revert back to the first shift. So each time you use his skill, it deals more damage. It deals more hits and more damage. And so basically, he rewards good DPS with more DPS. His second skill, Kindled Heart, ties into this by increasing his attack rate, which helps him get his first skill up faster and also deals more damage. Right. And then his abilities are all critical rate. HP equals critical rate and just critical rate. So with his 2% innate and both his abilities, has about a 20% critical rate, which means 1 in 5 hits will crit. So yeah, that's it. Very simple, very straightforward. Pure damage, and he's fun to play.
Right.
You just want to keep hitting and keep hitting and keep hitting.
Yeah, I think definitely a spiral is good potential for him, at least to bring his numbers up to everybody else. And then of course, I mean his skill 2. I mean, if spiraled, will definitely be some good value. Adding
Yeah.
something additional to his attack rate or increasing how much attack rate he's given.
Or hear me out, refilling itself by 50%.
That's pretty good too. That is pretty good too.
Yeah, I think he's also the only adventurer in the game whose skill 1 and skill 2 have equal SP costs.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, I think it is.
So, all right. Well, I think that wraps up Mikoto then for now. We can definitely move on if you guys would like.
Yeah.
All right.